Recording in progress.
Hello, Coach. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My question to you is, what would you like to keep from Game 3 against the Wizards? Yes, and what would you like to maintain? What is the biggest improvement of your team?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to keep shooting that well. You have games where you get that many open shots. You just don't have a lot of games where you make that many open shots. And so, to get open shots, you got to be executing. You got to run your stuff right. You got to have ball movement. So we did that well. But on top of all that, we also then made the shot. So I would like to keep making open shots. That was great.
Next up, Chris Franklin.
Hey, Doc, it looked like Matisse went up the tunnel and left the game at one point last night. Is everything all right with him?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you know, I don't ask because then they'll tell you. No one told me anything yet, so my guess is he's fine. I literally didn't ask, so I don't know the real answer to that, Chris.
Thanks.
Kai Carlin, you're up.
Hey, what's going on, Coach? I wanted to ask you, how would you assess your defense against Russ and Bradley? I think Russ is shooting like 15% from deep in this series, and you're holding Russell below his field goal percentage as well. So how would you assess how you guys have defended them in the series so far?
Pretty well, but they're just so tough. I mean, the energy that both of those guys expend per game, I've been just it's amazing to watch, and. So on the flip side of that, that means we have to expend the same amount of energy. And I think overall we've done that. Bradley has shaken loose a couple of times, but what I've been overall happy with, we haven't made mistakes from the three with him. We've made some mistakes where he's been able to go down the lane and take in between contested shots. You don't want him taking any open shots. He's just too good. But I think the mistakes we have made have been the right mistakes, I guess you can say. Overall with him, Russell, you just got to stand in the fire. We've done that well overall. There's times we've won that. There's times Russell's won that. But you have to know that coming into the series. I mean, he's coming at you.
Thanks, Coach.
Keith Pompey.
Hey, Doc, what's the main thing you guys have to guard against tomorrow?
Well, we have to just come out and play, Keith. I'm not going to focus on what we shouldn't do. I kind of focus on what we need to do, and we just have to keep playing. And I think that's the key for us. It's just our focus, our execution, and then all the other stuff falls into place. But I don't spend a lot of time on all the things that if you don't do this, this will happen. I do more on if you do this, this will happen.
To talk about if you do this, this will happen. But Joel Embiid has done a lot of great things in the first three games. What stood out to you the most? I mean, what's the biggest thing that you think he's done for y'all?
Well, especially last game. I mean, I guess his overall selection of shots and win the pass. Offensively, if you figure that out as a team in general, not just Joel, win the shoot and win the pass. Win the cut, win the drive. If you can get your team to have that rhythm and be good at that, you're going to be a good offensive team. Individually, I thought Joel did that. I thought as a team we did that as well, but I thought Joel in particular, he shot the shots he should take. He passed when he was supposed to pass. I mean, that's as good as you can get.
And one last question, if I can get it in. Doc, when you first came into the league, it was the big man's league, the centers and this and that. Then all of a sudden it became a guards league. And now it seems like it's trending back to some elite centers that could change it. Did you ever think that it would go back to the centers? And what's your thought about, there being a lot of elite guys in here, centers that are, taking over?
I just like the word elite. It doesn't matter what position, but it's funny, Keith. I remember, I think in my first and second year coaching the Celtics, and I made a comment, where are the point guards? There's no guards in the league, and then within 5 years, it was like, where are the bigs? There's no bigs in the league, Someone asked me 4 or 5 years ago, my thought about no bigs. I said, they're coming. They'll be back. It's just, the game is circular. It happens, and it seems like the twos and the threes never leave the league. We've never had a down period of not having twos or threes. And mostly that's growth. That's usually what the size of everybody is a two and a three. The two things that go in cycles to me are the point guards and the fives, and we may be going into an era where we have both, which would be pretty darn cool.
And lastly, I love that shirt, man.
Oh, thanks.
We'll get to as many of the remaining folks as we can here as possible, starting with Sean Keeler with the Denver Post. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Coach, dad question, not a coach question, so I'll make it quick. You mentioned it the other day on Twitter, but what kind of emotions, and when you have time to watch Austin, have kind of gone through your mind, especially when he has a nights like last Thursday, given his last 6 months in the league?
Yeah, I'm a complete parent, just like any other body on this thing that's a parent and has a chance to watch their child play. Zero coaching is involved when I'm watching Austin play. I'm a complete parent. You're cheering for him. You want him to do well. You get mad at him when he doesn't. But I've learned as a parent, you don't tell him either one. We do talk basketball in general terms. I can be a good sounding board for him. But he's a grown man, and I let him be that. But it's always nice, it doesn't matter what level. I really believe that. Like if you have a chance to be a parent and you have a chance to watch your child play sports, there's some enjoyment there for you. And that's what I get out of it.
Mark Narducci, you're up.
Hey, Doc, before I get to my question, have you ever been to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City?
No, I have not. I would love to go, though.
I hardly recommend it, yeah.
Yeah, I have a Kansas City Monarchs shirt, and someone actually said, man, you need to just take a special trip to Kansas City. And I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, I got a Monarchs hat. But anyway, enough of that. A quick question. I know you touched on it briefly last night about replacing or having Maxey go in before Shake. Is this just a game-by-game thing? Because, Shake, you see the numbers. He has been struggling.
Yeah, it is. I right now probably Maxey would go in first. But we kind of decided that with the way they were subbing anyway. So let's say if the numbers were different, we probably still would go that way because, we need someone to stay in front of Ish. And we need to give Ish some problems on the other end with speed. So it's definitely a matchup, but it's also deserved. Max is playing great. We need him. He's been fantastic for us.
Okay, thank you.
Next is Lauren Rosen.
Hey, Doc, when you think about Danny's shooting night last night, but maybe when we zoom out all the way to him winning a championship in the bubble, the distance between then and now, what does Danny really mean to the fabric of the team, and what do you think he's going to continue to mean as you guys move forward?
Well, his leadership is really important. His voice is important, and his calm. Danny just shoots the ball. He's just like kind of a very calming force at times. He makes mistakes just like he's on the floor. But overall, he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, keeps playing his game. And it's just a very high IQ basketball player. So he's a really calming force for our team overall.
Thanks, Coach.
Let's go to Noah Levick.
Hey, Doc. You said last night that you've been working a lot recently with just the first unit, just the second unit. Was wondering, is part of that at all thinking that down the line you'll be using lineups with 4 or 5 bench players?
Yeah, and also just continuity. And what we're doing is reversing a lot. Like there's times with the second unit, we run all the first unit sets because you don't know which guy will be in. So we're preparing for both. So it's really nothing to do with 5 guys playing together. It's more each group of guys knowing the group of guys that they're on the floor with sets and the continuity of it and what we're looking for. And I thought that's had a lot of it's gone a long way for us so far.
Got time for 3 more here. Austin, Chris, Ed. Austin, go ahead first.
Hey Doc, last night was the first game you've played in DC since Joel had the injury in DC. I'm curious. A couple of those dunks last night were pretty thunderous. Does that kind of reflect on you at all? Like with when you think back to that night in DC where you had the scare with Joel.
Yeah, no, I didn't, but thanks for bringing that up, Austin. That's very nice of you. I really appreciate it. So no, I didn't give it any thought. What I did think was how explosive he is, and how light he looks. Physically, his body looks great. So I gave that more thought. But yeah, I mean, the first one was as vicious as the second one yesterday. It was great to see him do that.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, Chris and then Ed.
Hey, Coach. Scott Brooks earlier today talked about how Joel is doing things that he hasn't seen since Akeem Olajuwon. Do you have any thoughts on that comparison? And just what are your thoughts on kind of comparisons in general with going back to players that you maybe played alongside?
Yeah, I don't do the comparison thing often. I just try to stay away from that. I think Joel's his own guy. But I do use him in that way, just like Scotty does at times. And yeah, I can see that. I can see that and Patrick Ewing. We had a chance to practice at Georgetown the other day, and Patrick stayed and watched and talked. And so it's just, I think Joel has a little bit of all those guys. The footwork of Akeem and Mikhail, the fadeaway, the shooting of Ewing. He puts a lot of work into his game. And that's what makes him such a good player.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, last one to Ed Bankin.
Hi, Doc. There's always the extra challenge when you're playing a team that's facing elimination. What's the extra difference when you have to step on the court tomorrow night against a team that's fighting for its season to stay alive?
Well, they're gonna give their best. They're gonna come out and they're gonna play with an amazing amount of energy, and you have to match that. You have to match it or go past their energy. You can't have a show-up game, meaning just show up and think you got to be ready to play your game. And that's pretty much what we focus on.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.